Hey everyone, welcome. I know we're in 2023 and everybody is just waiting for the unreleased SRAM 12-speed drivetrain, but if you are like me and you plan to continue using your Eagle 12-speed or Shimano 12-speed, you might be looking to refresh that drivetrain. That's exactly what I'm trying to do with this. This is a Garbaruk 12-speed cassette that I've been trying to get for ages. And in this video, I'm going to take a look at this compared to Eagle 12-speed cassettes and the Shimano 12-speed, see how the construction is, and more importantly, whether this can be a viable alternative. And the reason why I wanted to try the Garbaruk is because somehow these guys from Poland managed to outsmart both Shimano and SRAM and came up with a cassette that not only offers that 10 to 52, so 520% range, but is somehow cheaper and is lighter than both XX1 or XTR from Shimano. If you look for reviews on these cassettes, you're mostly gonna find reviews versus the SRAM alternative. The one that I have is the Micro Spline version. Let's see what I got. And what I got is a cassette that's 2% better than the Shimano 12-speed, the 10 to 51 tooth. This is a 10 to 52 tooth. Nickel black is the color and is a 12-speed cassette using the Shimano Micro Spline. And they're mentioning the Micro Spline because now they also have a cassette that's compatible with the old HG driver from Shimano. This one would be 11 to 52 tooth, but otherwise uses a very similar construction with what you're gonna see. Box is a bit smaller than what Shimano or SRAM would use, and on the back you're gonna have a whole bunch of URLs to their website where I bought my cassette from. Here's another layer of cardboard, and that's a little baggy. This is the Shimano Micro Spline lock ring. The cassette seems to be one piece, very similar to what you would find with SRAM Eagle cassettes. That's very interesting because if you look at, let's say, my Shimano 12-speed installation video, that, by the way, has surpassed 1.2 million views. Thank you guys. I'm gonna link it up in the corner. And if you watch that video, you're gonna see that all these Shimano 12-speed cassettes have an aluminum spider and then a whole bunch of loose cogs that you have to line up properly before you tighten up the cassette. So I guess learning from all that, Garbaruk managed to give us one cassette, one lock ring, very similar to what SRAM is giving us with their Eagle. With both of these cassettes using a similar construction, we're talking about 11 cogs here made out of steel. This is nickel plated and it's been machined from one single large piece of metal. And then you have the largest cog made out of 7075 aluminum alloy that is bolted onto the rest of the cassette. 52 tooth and MS. I assume that is for Micro Spline. As opposed to that, SRAM is pretty much identical, aside from the design of the largest cog, which is pretty distinctive. This is an XO1 cassette. XX1 would give you more colors, obviously, but otherwise, if you look at the machining of the teeth here, it's very similar to what Garbaruk has done. Actually, it's way more visible from this side. It's very, very similar. It looks like those crosses are in a different direction, but aside from that, this is very, very similar. I don't know what kind of patents SRAM has on it. Assume Garbaruk didn't infringe on any of those. Inside, the material is carved out, probably to save weight. You see that big spline, the indexing for your Micro Spline. You're gonna have this big cone that says Garbaruk on it. That's the only branding on the cassette. And one interesting thing to notice here, all the Shimano cassettes have here what's called a low spacer. It was loose on the XTR and is embedded on all the other Shimano cassettes. Well, this Garbaruk doesn't have it whatsoever. That's used on the Shimanos, so they don't make any noise, they don't creak. Curious how this is going to work in comparison. Garbaruk gives you just tiny little teeth here on the edge of that 10-tooth cog. And if you go to manuals, there is no specific instructions on how to install this cassette, maybe because it's so simple. Obviously, you're going to slide it in, then you tighten this lock ring. If you look carefully here, there's no information on the lock ring itself, so I would assume you use the same 40 Newton meters that are clearly specified here on an original Shimano lock ring. So the construction of the cassette is very similar to SRAM. The installation of the cassette is very similar to a SRAM cassette as well with the XD driver. Really wonder why Shimano's not using something similar. But what about the weight of this? This is an XO1 1050 and you can see it at 359 grams. XX1 1052 is very similar to that, so again 360 grams. I looked at the XTR cassette in a different video and you can see it here at 369 grams. That's for 10 to 51 tooth. And in comparison, my 1052 Garbaruk for micro spline comes up to 347 grams. Obviously, I would have to add the lock ring. Here's your 353 grams. So these guys from Poland managed to beat both SRAM and Shimano by a few grams. But obviously none of this would matter if the cassette doesn't perform. So let me put it on my bike and see how it goes. And I'm gonna dab a bit of grease right here at the end of this spline. And I'm also gonna add a bit of grease here on the teeth at the top of the spline. As usual, a tiny bit here on the threads. 40 Newton meters, and we're ready. Given that nickel coating of the steel cogs, you can see the machining very clearly on this Garbaruk cassette. Machining is similar to SRAM, but otherwise that cassette is Hyperglide Plus compatible, meaning the same chain that works on these Shimano cassettes should work on that one just fine and give us that smooth shifting that Shimano 12-speed is known for. Shifting both down and up the cassette seems to be smooth as expected. If anything, maybe a bit noisier than what I was getting with the Shimano cassette. Once on that largest cog, I know you guys are gonna ask me about backpedaling, and the chain drops off of that 52 tooth cog. It does. Now, mind you, this bike is a 425 millimeter chainstay, which is very short. This is a 52 millimeter chain line, so this is boost. My Yeti Arc has 433 millimeter chainstays, uses a 55 millimeter chain line, so the chain ring is pushed out another 3 millimeters. And here's the Garbaruk on the same bike, XTR chain, the 52 tooth cog, and you can see how the chain won't drop. So if your chainstay is in that 430 plus millimeter range, you probably won't see that issue with this cassette whatsoever. So if you're still with me after all this time, I assume you liked the video, so don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps me with the algorithm. Is this cassette any good? Well, as you could see, the only problem that I could find was with that really short chainstay, but that's probably because it doesn't have the narrow wide tooth profile that you can find on the SRAM cassettes with all the issues that come from that. Now, the gear steps on this cassette I haven't talked about is very similar to both Shimano and SRAM. It jumps from 44 to 52 as opposed to 45 to 51 on the Shimano or 42 to 52 on the SRAM. It seems to be nicely constructed. Obviously, I cannot talk about the longevity of this. So all in all, I think this is a very nice cassette and a good alternative both to SRAM, Shimano, and also the Helix that you see running on that Yeti Arc. So what do you think about this, guys? Are you gonna go on their website and buy one of these? Are you gonna get one for Shimano or SRAM? Let me know in the comments below. Hope you found this useful. Don't forget to like, subscribe, keep an eye on my channel, and until next time, hope to see you guys on the trails. Cheers, guys. Cheers.